Welcome to Dallas.
Mr. Prescott throwing the end zone wide open to the post. It's a touchdown.
Running while traveling is one of my favorite things because it's a great way to explore a new city, especially if you've never been. It's also an easy way to get in fitness. Hotel gyms are not always great, so getting outside, especially if it's warmer weather like it is here, is much preferred. But some advice when you're running, whether it be for work or running, on vacation or something like that, definitely prepare beforehand. So make sure you're bringing all the appropriate things you need. Plan your route. So Strava has a great function to where you can plan out your route. It even gives you heat maps on where other runners have run and what time, so you know you're being safe, but also it's a path that other people run and it's not going to be, a dead end for you. And also just have fun. If your run is hard that day and it's going to push you to a point of not having fun, maybe just do an easy run that day. Or in Runna, if you are using Runna like I do, you can put a vacation on the calendar. And so that way you can either skip your runs if that's what you want to do, or you can just do easy runs. So you're not having to put pressure on yourself for hitting certain times or paces or anything like that. But in this video, I want to talk about the mistakes that I made last year running my very first marathon. Some I've talked about, some I really haven't, but really want to fully explain the idea of an easy run, or a zone 2 run, as some people call it. It was kind of interesting. Today for work, we had the opportunity to listen to Sean Glass. You've probably never heard of him, but if you look him up, you'll see his very decorated list of accomplishments and history as a U.S. Navy SEAL instructor and leader. And he gave a very inspirational talk about leadership and motivation and influence. But one thing he really drilled us on and repeated over and over again is the idea that failure is the greatest teacher. If you're setting appropriate goals for yourself, you will fail, and you should. Failure gives us the opportunity to go back to the drawing board and fix our mistakes. Despite feeling 100% prepared, there were definitely some mistakes I made last year. Some I've talked about, some I haven't. My fueling plan was a big one, and I've talked a lot about that. The cramps were avoidable, and I'll definitely do what I can to avoid them next time. My shoes also caused me problems. I opted to go for the Nike very fast carbon plated shoes, and they didn't feel great on my feet, and I knew that, but I wanted to go faster, and I did. Definitely had some pain in my foot that was not necessary and caused more problems than I think I really even realized. But another mistake I made that I want to go into more detail about isn't even anything I did on race day. The foundation to any running plan are easy runs, where you're putting in a lot of miles at an easy pace to get more time on your feet. These are also referred to as zone 2 runs because a good measure for these runs is to stay in zone 2 heart rate, which means keeping your heart rate really, really low. There are actually 3 main ways to check yourself on if it is truly an easy run. The first is heart rate. Your heart rate zones can be calculated off of your resting or max heart rate, and it's going to be different for everybody. The standard way, and the way I knew of until more recently, is to take 220, subtract your age, and that's your max heart rate. You can see how this is just an approximation and not at all accurate. But for me, for example, 220 minus 31, my max heart rate should be 189. You can then take this max heart rate and use these percentages to calculate your heart rate zone, or just rely on your smartwatch to do it for you. There's zones in both Runna and Strava and any other app you might use to show you what zone you're in or what zone you have been for your run. Other more accurate ways to calculate a max heart rate is by doing what's called a lactic threshold run. And I'm not going to go into too many details on that. Feel free to look it up, but that is the more accurate way of actually calculating your max heart rate and getting accurate zone. Another way to make sure you're doing an easy run is by making sure it's a conversational pace, meaning you can run with somebody and be able to hold a conversation. This is a good method because it keeps it really simple and you don't have to constantly look at your watch to make sure you're in a certain zone. But it's also really hard to get right, especially if you're not running with anybody. You're not going to just going to talk to yourself and hold a conversation with yourself while running. Plus, I can usually always hold a conversation with somebody even if I'm dying. It's just going to be kind of slower, more breaths in between words and sentences. A third method of making sure you're doing an easy run, and the way I kind of tend to use more frequently, is by making sure I'm breathing in and out my nose. So nasal breathing has really good effects on running, but also just life in general, sleep, all that good stuff. And if I'm running at an easy pace, I can breathe in and out my nose while running. If I'm pushing myself past an easy run, I tend to not be able to only use my nose, and I'll have to maybe breathe in my nose, out my mouth, or even full mouth breathing at some points if it gets really hard. So at that point, I know I need to slow down and keep my pace easier so I can go back to nasal breathing. Now, easy runs will also vary day to day because there's so many factors that go into what's easy and what's not on any given day. Things like your recovery or your environment. If you're running in super hot temperatures, your heart rate's going to be higher. Runs are going to feel harder. If it's cooler, they're going to feel easier, which is why a lot of people love running in the fall and spring, and some people like running in the winter for some reason because it's cooler temps and easier to run. The elevation, if you're going on any sort of elevation, any hills, they're going to be harder than running on flat ground or downhill. But why is this important? Why is it important to stick to an easy pace on your easy runs and put in these miles at such an easy pace? Because easy runs literally teach your body how to use oxygen better. Think of it like this. Hard runs are like redlining your engine. So if you're a car, going on a hard run is redlining. You're going really fast, pushing your body to the max. Easy runs are like upgrading your engine side. So you're taking and doing the work in the garage to get a bit better, more efficient engine. And that way, when you go out to do a hard run, you've got more to work with. You can't run fast on a small engine. That's why running slower will make you run faster in the end. Easy runs also let you run more without breaking down. Injuries typically come from too much intensity or too little recovery. So doing these easy runs will strengthen your bones, your tendons, your connective tissue to help prevent injuries. Easy runs also make hard runs more effective, because if every run is hard, if you're pushing your body to the max every single time you go out to run, you're always going to be tired. Your hard days aren't really hard anymore, it's just hard all the time, and your progress plateaus. That's why so many people see a lot of increase, but then it just levels off because they're always pushing themselves too hard every single run. Easy runs are the foundation. But the problem is, the reason why they are so hard is because ego gets in the way. We run faster than we should just because we can. We see other people's times, other people's runs and results, and think we need to keep up instead of running our own race. We forget about the foundation and try to cut corners, which ends up costing us. I still have a high heart rate when I run. And easy runs are helping. Ideally, they lead to me having a lower average heart rate when I run. And so that way, when I run at my target pace during the marathon, it's easier. But I have to constantly tell myself, remind myself that no matter how much I want to, do not speed up, put in the work that matters to build the foundation slowly. Hills today. First time doing it in Runa. Not going outside. The treadmill it is. We did incline 10 at 6 miles per hour for a minute. 30-second walking rest, then jog back down, which is just easy jog. 14 sets. Whew. But we got free entertainment. Miles now complete. The week is done. It's been a good week. 9.5 I had to do on the air runner again. It's like 20 degrees outside. Granted, it's nice and sunny, so it was tempting. Actually, a big win from the run today. My heart rate, I don't think at once got above a 150, which is, that's a big win. That's a big win because my heart rate generally is very high, as I've talked about, and so being able to keep it low is going to be really important when I'm running 26.2 miles
Next week is the first deload week of the plan, so we'll cut back the miles. I think it's around 19 versus the 30 plus miles I've been at, so it'll feel like a much needed rest, and I'm going to take full advantage to rest, but also get some additional strength workouts in, because I've been lacking a little bit in that area. So I want to keep that up and make sure we're staying healthy. If you haven't already, like, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Go watch the other videos if you haven't already. This is week 3. Week 4 will be next week. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.